Excel has a number of keystroke shortcuts related to formatting, certainly widely known by a lot of Excel users as Control-B for bold. And as we look at these on the Home tab in the ribbon, we see the keystroke shortcut referred to here. And of course, there are other features that we use in formatting that are not so well known. They've got keystroke shortcuts too. For example, strike through. When someone leaves this organization, we don't delete the information about that person for a while. We simply indicate that the person has left by using the formatting feature, strike through. This has no impact whatsoever on content. Simply Control-5 applies this feature. This is what we also call a toggle. Control-5 removes it. In a different worksheet here, I want to highlight this data here, not by using color, but I want to put a border on it. And anytime you want a simple perimeter border, you can use the keystroke shortcut, Control-Shift-7. If you are familiar with border features, you know that sometimes when you apply the features, you don't actually see them until you deselect the data. That has been applied. There's a border around those cells. We won't see it until we click outside the cells. There we are. Now we see it. Now, on a different worksheet here, we've got border features in effect. Here, we've got some different kinds off to the right and another one below and so on. We might want to remove all border features. I might zoom back. We've got some others here. We could do the entire worksheet or maybe just some of them. Highlight the relevant cells or maybe the entire worksheet. Maybe we want to get rid of just these border features here. Notice that they are different kinds. To get rid of any border feature, it's Control-Shift-, or it could be described as Control-Shift-_. All border features are removed regardless of what type they were. Let me undo that again, Control-Z. We do this for the cells in question or all of them. Got a border feature on cell B3 up here, also one down in L26. We want to get rid of all of them for the entire worksheet. Simply click in the upper left corner, Control-Shift-. All border features are gone. So applying a simple perimeter border, Control-Shift-7. To remove all border features, Control-Shift-. Now, on a different worksheet here, we've got some keystroke shortcut listed for various numeric formats. And these shortcuts have something in common in that they're located next to each other on the keyboard. So from left to right on the top row of your keyboard, just below the function keys, you're likely to see these keys right here. That first one on some keyboards maybe you won't see, the one with the tilde and the accent grave, but most keyboards you'll see these in order this way with their symbols. And at different times, it's fast to use these for formatting numbers. Now, general format, most people don't use that often other than the fact that it is the native format of Excel, but usually we're moving away from general format. But if you ever need to have a series of numbers redisplayed in general format, you simply can highlight them and press Control-Shift and use this key right here. Whatever you might call that key. I call it tilde, but anyway, Control-Shift key. All these shortcuts use Control and Shift and then the appropriate key. So if you've got data like this and you want to use the number format, you can press Control-Shift-1 or sometimes phrased Control-Shift!, and it turns the number into this. If you've got a series of times displayed in 24-hour style, you want to display them with AM, PM, it's Control-Shift@. Dates displayed this way are just fine for many of us, but if you want to display the month as a 3-letter character, as we see below here, we've got our data highlighted, Control-Shift# or Control-Shift-3. And similarly over here with currency. Now, I need to point out here that there is a difference between the $ as we see it here, and we're about to apply currency format. That's different than the $ that we see on the Home tab in the number group. This applies a counting number format. So I'm going to use it first to see the display. Now, if I use Control-Shift$, there'll be some differences here. Keep an eye on this. Control-Shift$. The $ moves next to the number instead of hugging the left side of the cell. Also, when you're using negatives, you might get a different display. So without going into great detail, when you're using the $ for display, you might use currency format, and it's got a keystroke shortcut, Control-Shift$, or you might be using the $ feature here that applies the counting number format. But just make sure that you're consistent about what it is you're applying to cells in the same general area. If you type the number 0.12, it's likely to be displayed as 0.12, or possibly like this if you've done some other formatting. But if you mean to display it as a percent, simply press Control-Shift% sign, same as Control-Shift5. And although not as many people are likely to use scientific notation, if you are, and you want this number displayed with the E, the exponent with the number like this, you simply take this data, Control-Shift6 or Control-Shift-. So all these keystroke shortcuts, again, use Control and Shift and then any of the various keys that are right next to each other across the top row of the keyboard. There's a new function, actually, in Excel 2013 called Is Formula. And it's going to be really helpful in this worksheet. Let me first of all point out that if you click on a single cell on a worksheet like this, and you said to yourself, I'd like to highlight all the formula cells, from the Home tab, you could easily click the far right button, Find and Select, and choose Formulas. And you could apply a color, say yellow right here, from the Fill Color bucket. That's good, but it's not dynamic. So for example, if I click this cell and press Delete, the formula's gone, but the yellow stays. If I write a new formula here, a simple formula that simply takes this times 2, I've got a formula there, but it didn't turn yellow. So those two changes are not dynamic. Let's remove the color here. I'll simply press Control-Z to get rid of the color. The new function is called Is Formula, and we can use this in combination with conditional format to set up what might be called dynamic conditional formatting with formulas. I'm going to select the entire worksheet. That makes the active cell be A1. I'll go to Conditional Formatting, create a new rule, and use a formula to determine which cells to format, and that formula will be as follows. Equal is formula. You don't have to capitalize this as you type it. I'm doing it for readability. Equal is formula, left parenthesis, A1, right parentheses. Apply a format. I'll use bright yellow again as the background. We could use any combination of different formatting features. Click OK. Now, in contrast to the previous approach, this is dynamic. So if I delete the content of this cell, it's no longer yellow. If I click here and write a formula, like I did before, it will become yellow as soon as I complete it and turn it into a formula. The function being applied here is a new function available only in Excel 2013, conditional formatting. Now, viewing it again, we'll go back not to create a new rule, but to manage an existing rule. And there it is right there. We can edit the rule to redisplay it. Equal is formula, left parenthesis A1, right parenthesis. Even though we only refer to cell A1, it automatically applies the format to the entire worksheet since we've selected it all. So we're applying a yellow format anytime a cell has a formula. That allows us to keep a good eye on this particular worksheet, and as we make adjustments to it, maybe it's dynamic, we're adding new formulas all the time and adjusting it and so on. Changing things, we want this to be up to date. So the new feature helps a lot. So we've seen quite a few different formatting tips in this particular presentation.